You know, Mark, I think we've had many instances where I would have corrected so many things. When the 2010 Constitution was being promulgated, I remember I was not with him, I was somewhere else in a Western capital, and people were actually talking about the peace that had prevailed in the last term of President Kibaki, that you had a prime minister, and it appeared okay back then. And people are questioning, why didn't we continue, or why didn't we structure our constitution
to accommodate that?
Yeah, back then. All of a sudden, to realize that the proponents or the people who would have pushed that office, they did not want that office to be present because they thought or they felt they were so close within the ranks of power and hence did not need it because it would usurp some of the powers. The same thing, we are told, came all the way to 2017. So it's not that, or it's not like we have not had a chance to write some of the things within our constitution that would require us to go to probably a referendum and be able to write some of the things that we are talking about.
Yes.
And I would agree with Mark, if you're looking at what they say, the oldest constitution of the United States, it has been amended so many times. If you can remember the words of the former president, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, many years ago. But when were they implemented? Or when did we start seeing change?
Yeah.
We only had the first black president just a few years ago. So it tells you, even if it could be in paper, Mark, we also need the spirit of the Constitution to be alive and well.
Okay.
That people will be grateful for that there is cohesion in what this Constitution will bring forth. Okay. If it has not brought anything forth as we speak, the conversation should be, how should we go about it peacefully to ensure that nobody is feeling prejudiced, or you feel somebody is throwing at you so much gab that you need to change something nearly by force. Okay. Because the Constitution allows us to be a free country. But freedom, as we talk about it, you had so many people just the other day, if I was to give you an example, many legal scholars were finding it very difficult to interpret Article 37 of our Constitution that talks about peaceful and unarmed demonstrations.
But in your view, you've said it because what the point we're trying to get at is what is seen as a political crisis that has to lead to talks is choreographed, is cosmetic.
Of course. Because at the end of the day, you cannot create an environment, then suggest ideas on how to quell that environment that you've created. At some point, you must allow a way. And Mark, you have to agree with me, that's why I thought the bipartisan talks was a very great platform. Would have achieved more if we allowed to be in an environment that is peaceful, where people are talking with each other vis-a-vis what we saw. And here is why I keep saying, Mark, you can never see chaos, or rather, chaos have never produced order. They will never. You can't, and here when I say chaos, I'm really not talking about violence.
Revolution?
Yeah. No. I'm even not even in the revolution realm. Yeah. And here I'm not talking even about violence. I'm talking about a systematic rearrangement of things.
The revolutions, that's how they're...
most revolutions are bloody. Unless you're telling me there's a revolution that has been carried without a coup,
Sri Lanka is a good example. They walked into the presidential palace and kicked out the president. It was not violent.
Yes.
You wanted that example. I'm just giving you that example. But the point I wanted to make is this. Our Constitution envisions the president to be a symbol of national unity.
Right.
There is a constitutional responsibility on the president to literally reach across the aisle. One of the mistakes we've made in the last 1 year is we've not reached across the aisle. The words, the actions that we've done to each other. Look at Jubilee. Jubilee has been sponsored to be taken over, literally from government, right? So that is not an action of peace. And I'm saying that without fear of contradiction, because that is what has happened. But what is critical to understand is, I think, for once, people are giving Raila Odinga more credit than he deserves. Hear me out. He came with the narrative of elections have been stolen. Kenyans didn't react, and kudos to Kenyans. He came with the narrative of William Ruto is illegitimate. Didn't work. Okay? Because Kenyans have grown up. If today the cost of living in this country was going down, we would not have Mandamano. And I have said times above number, you may think you're doing the right thing in as far as this economy is concerned. But that does not mean you should not listen and respect the people who disagree with you. I think we are where we are. And Raila may be the figurehead of it, but I do not think he's the mastermind of it.
Who do you think is a mastermind?
The people. Because if you looked at social media and analyzed the protests that was there, because now let's talk about peaceful and armed. Look at the protests on social media about cost of living, about the finance bill 2023-2024, about how people feel that the economy is not headed in the right way. 75% of Kenyans. When you look at those numbers, then you realize that Raila is riding on a horse that is not of his own making. If we are going to be genuine with ourselves, we need to address two simple things. Number one, listen to the Kenyan in economic pain. Number two, solve the constitutional problems that make this Kenyan who feels in pain feel like Parliament does not represent him. That is the solution.
But do you agree, first of all, that all this political, stall is choreographed to meet personal ends?
Remember why I started, Mark? I'll remind you. I said, politicians will always take an economic situation and use it for political ends. That is the combination of politics. What the people want, meeting what the politicians want. That is how it works. Now, by no means, I do not think there is a saint in Azimio or in Kenya Kwanza who's going to save us from our doldrums.
Okay.
What we need to do is to keep agitating as a people to force those who claim to represent us to accurately represent us.